he not only is seeing polls, drop through the floor. We had initial polling that showed it was bad, but now it's just gone precipitously down. And they pay attention. As the wave goes down for him, he brings down everybody who's a Democrat. So that's why they're not just being nasty about it in the Democratic Party. They don't want to lose the Senate, which they're going to. And they actually thought they might be able to take the House, which now, no. But they don't want huge margins. They're like, what if there's 55 Republican seats in the Senate? How high could it go? So that's one, the polling. But the money's gone. The Katzenberg news was huge, you guys, where he went. He's, I think the biggest Democrat bundler, Hollywood movie producer, went to Joe Biden and said, the donors are gone. The money's dried up. And they were expecting some sort of shortfall of 50% for this month. Now they're saying they're on track they were only going to bring in, about 50% of what they had banked on. Now they're saying it's more like 25%. So, 75% of his funds gone in the wake of that debate. And his rehabilitation tour did nothing to soothe anybody's worries. So all that plus a unified Republican Party and Trump being propelled, thanks to last Saturday's just dramatic and terrible, but then ultimately triumphant results for him, have them seeing a united, excited, enthusiastic Republican Party. And I think the term is scared shitless. And that is why Joe Biden is going to go. What do you guys think?
I don't know if I could have imagined so total a kind of reversal of fortunes in this campaign. After Trump lost those court cases in New York, everything looked pretty bleak for him. He was certainly doing some fundraising, but you had a sense that there was kind of just a lot of things for him to overcome in this election. Today, after the debate performance, things were tight before the debate. But after the debate performance, this preposterous extended period of time where Democrats seemed to be pretending that there was just a single performance, a single day, a press conference that Joe Biden could complete without, dying, that would be the thing that could possibly correct the trajectory of this particular campaign. Had he dropped out after the debate performance and they found their way, meandered to just another candidate, they would be in such a better position. But after the failed assassination attempt, and quite frankly, after this incredibly successful RNC convention, I just think they are in a real hole. And I don't know, Megyn. I'm trying to think through exactly what might be happening with Biden and all of his various apparatchiks who don't want him, at least seemingly don't want him to drop out of this race. It certainly seems like he desperately wants to stay in the job. It seems like earnest. I imagine Joe Biden also wants to stay in that job. I won't pretend to have any secret knowledge. I've been expecting him to drop out for a while. I thought when he was sick, I was like, oh, okay. I bet he gets sufficiently sick that he has a reason to drop out. But it's not hard to imagine that he really wants to stick it out, despite the fact that he's more isolated than he has been throughout the entirety of this process. So it's astonishing to see, and also astonishing to see how well Trump did at the RNC. The speech was long, but I didn't get the sense, despite the fact that there is kind of reporting that suggests as much, that people were bored in the room. The fact that he told this deeply personal and humanizing story, that entire thing contrasts so sharply with the caricature of Donald Trump by his opponents as some sort of self-absorbed hater. He spent an inordinate amount of time really talking about these other people who'd been hurt, and the families that were suffering and the efforts that were being made to try to raise money for them. And if you just suspend whatever sense you have of Trump, the character, and just think about a man named Donald who nearly died, he came millimeters away from being murdered, that changes a person. And he didn't seem rattled. He seemed kind of in control of himself. And I think it's important to just set politics aside for a little bit and kind of look at things in that kind of as objective a way as possible and say, this is a guy who seems very comfortable in his skin, and a party that seems unified behind him. And this is, I think the phrase that came to mind thinking about this was kind of total victory. I mean, he's gone through, as you mentioned, this is the third time he's accepted the party's nomination. The other two times, there wasn't a sense that everyone was really on board. But there is a sense now that the Republican Party is truly on board with this guy. This is not a lame duck second term run. This is a kind of newly vibrant Republican Party that seems to have real cultural power and influence in a way that they just have not in previous years. And it's kind of extraordinary to see. It's difficult to know how long this will last. But it certainly seems like enough to not just win him the White House, but win it in kind of overwhelming fashion if things hold in this particular way.
Yeah. You know, Matt, the Democrats wanted to say, there was no change in Trump because he went back to, he referenced crazy Nancy Pelosi and some other, and said he's going to deport the illegal immigrants who are here unlawfully. Mm-hmm. All right. Who hasn't seen Nancy Pelosi for years saying the nastiest things one can say about Donald Trump? She ripped up his State of the Union speech from the podium when he gave that State of the Union address.
That's right.
She was on Bill Maher not that long ago. He went, twice impeached Donald Trump. If I were Trump, I'd be calling her a lot worse than crazy Nancy. That is mild. He didn't have a personality transplant when that bullet hit his ear. No one was expecting him to come out there like Oprah and start talking about healing our souls and trying to find a way to, no, that's not Trump. He is a fighter. That's why he had the fist up. But to ignore that there was a different side to him that he showed last night is to ignore reality. He's still Trump, but this whole convention showed us a softer side of him that was interesting. So, I mean, the Democrats are going to do what they're going to do, but to try to say he's more divisive than ever because he wants to deport the illegals, which he's been saying forever, or because he called Nancy a name, which I think was the only name that he dropped last night, is dishonest.
It was jarring or interesting, let's say, to see the difference between his speech and his public appearances. Just like he looks a little bit different in the stands. Like he looks somewhat diminished might be the wrong word, but just sort of like he had a different energy throughout the convention. The difference between
maybe you'll sign on to this, Matt, or maybe you won't. But like, forgive me, it's like a weird one for Trump. But he looks kind of sweet, like sitting there in the.
Megyn.
No,
I want you to think about your words now, Megyn. No,
look at him. Look at here with his grandson. It's just kind of sweet to see him reacting to his grandkids and smiling.
But look at Melania in the middle of that shot, though. That was perfect.
Camille, stop looking at Melania for once in your life.
No, she could not be any more gorgeous. I'm sorry. How is this woman never on the cover of Vogue as First Lady? But Jill Biden,
Dr. Jill,
who basically dresses in a grocery store bag, has been on. It's just very wrong.
Yeah.
No. So the contrast between the Trump pre-recorded spots, right? Every night they would have, and this is the first convention I haven't covered since 2000, right? And so I watched it at home as a consumer, much more than you do actually when you're covering a convention, Megyn. As you know, you're busy, you're doing things. So I actually watched basically everything, and I was using like C-SPAN feeds and live feeds, so I can see the band, play 38 special songs the whole time, and had a great time with all of it. But the pre-recorded Trump bits were that old Trump's like, they're going to steal the election again, and all this. And you could tell because he didn't have the bandage on his ear. There's a whole tone of voice that was different in those things than in what you saw from his speech last night. Yeah, he played the hits. He started rambling. That was a long, long speech. The sort of 60 minutes in the middle of it. When he was kind of departing from the teleprompter. But they did a very careful job of stage managing this. And I think it was like a last minute after the assassination attempt bit of stage managing, right? He ripped up his speech. He said he's going to strike this note of unity, which he did, certainly at the scripted top. And it felt as heartfelt as one can get from both Trump or a politician. You should never take all of this too seriously. But I was most impressed with the way, not just that we had individuals humanizing Trump. I don't know if I need to hear from another one of his golf employees at some point, like knock that off, please. Or every single person who's ever been related to him. That gets a bit much, and that reinforces things that Americans don't like about Trump. Because remember, he's never gotten more than 47% of the vote. So an open question, I agree with it, with both of your guys' analysis, but still, is that enough to get him over the 47%? But the thing that was really interesting to me was both the testimony from just normal people, right? But by normal, I mean normal, abnormal. It's Americans. It was like I've been on this sort of patriotic kick since July 4th. The dude from Philly with a hat and the beard and the awesome accent, the Gold Star families who were just from everywhere, just like a lot of great tattoos were on display. And we saw this Amber Rose. I know that's controversial among other people. I thought it was one of the greatest speeches at the convention. Kid Rock, I thought was horrible, but terrible. And he's America. He just is. There's something to it, and it gave a lot of people, I think, a permission structure, and Amber Rose is probably the best speech that did that, to say, hey, look, I thought this of him too, but the media lied to me, and I don't have to love everything about him, but it's different than you thought. And the fact that MSNBC has been spending at least some or a lot of its time concocting the most insane theories about, like, there are Easter eggs of white nationalism when J.D. Vance is talking about where he wants to bury his family. It's like, what are you talking about, Alex Wagner? That Rachel Maddow yammering on about the Lord of the Rings. Like, this narrative from the left forever that this is all about white nationalism. Dude, open your eyes and watch the convention. That was not a white nationalist convention, right? Mm-hmm. See, even like the competing religious figures last night, and I forget the dude from the Detroit's name, but also Franklin Graham. I mean, Billy Graham was always a Republican figure. And
he's Franklin, like Billy Graham, also great at the rallies. If you weren't following the news, a massive hit to the US dollar just came in June when Saudi Arabia did not renew its 50-year petrodollar deal with the US. Since 1974, Saudi Arabia has sold oil exclusively in US dollars, and that was huge to our global economic dominance. Now they want options other than the dollar. So ask yourself, if there's less demand for the dollar, what happens next? Look, it's reasons like this that Americans are looking at Birch Gold Group. For over 20 years, Birch Gold has helped tens of thousands of Americans protect their savings by converting an IRA or 401k into an IRA in physical gold. To learn more, text the word MK to 989898 and claim your free, no-obligation info kit on gold. That's MK to the number 989898. Birch Gold has earned the trust of so many with their education-first approach, their thousands of happy customers, and many 5-star reviews. Consider protecting your savings with gold before the dollar plunges any further. Text MK to 989898 today. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.